Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Silicon Zeros. There was something I realized that I forgot to do in the last episode, which is not super important, but that I do want to get to, is, which one of these? Was it more stages, maybe? Is this the one that I thought had the bug about if it's, like, getting confused between a memory address and, yeah, it has memsets and addms, right? So I mentioned this, and, as I have told you before, Pleasing Fungus is watching these videos before they are public. Long before they are public. At this stage, I'm recording these over the course of like a week and publishing over the course of like, I don't know. I haven't done the math, but a long time. So I was a little concerned that a memset instruction preceded by an addm instruction might say, oh look, addm wrote into memory address 3, therefore we should throw away our 3 and use the value that it wrote. But he convinced me that I was wrong, that this bug does not exist. Notably, what we're throwing away when we determine... where is it? Here? No, this is the one that's source. When we determine that the source of the previous instruction... no, of the current instruction is equal to the address written by the previous instruction, we therefore choose to use the value that was written instead of the value that we read from memory from source. But this doesn't matter because it only applies to memset instructions, and memset instructions don't actually use the value that was read from here anyway. Where actually does this go? Goes here, goes to here, goes to here, goes to here, which goes to here and goes to here. But then that's only for addm that we use this value at all, right? So we're not throwing away the value source itself, which we are using. We're throwing away the value read from memory at source, which we're not using anyway, and so it doesn't matter. And he wanted me to clarify that I was wrong all along, and there were no bugs in his perfectly clean, excellent test cases. So there you go. We got that out of the way. Do I have all these, like, ideal? I do, believe it or not. Okay. So, we have delay jump or Reg Hazard. I suspect that I will be doing Reg Hazard, and perhaps all of these off-camera. I don't have a ton of time left to do recording in the near future, so probably won't be able to record a lot more of these episodes. And also, Pleasing Fungus warns me this is the hardest puzzle in the game, and could therefore take me quite some time. So we'll see. Let's head on to the delay jump, though. Hey Sam, did you hear the story about someone trying to steal Zerocom employees? Kind of flattering, really, trying to hire away the best. Anyway, Carol wants us working on new instruction types. See if you can execute all of these. And actually, I suppose we should grab more stages and paste it into here. Like, I'm sure we'll need just about all of this. And I assume the only new instruction is jump. Memset and addm we already have handled. And all that's new is jump. Okay, so that doesn't seem too bad, right? All we need is, well, we need a little bit more than when we implemented jump in the slower computer. This Militic thing, since it's got some pipeline stages, is going to be a little bit trickier. Hang on. Is there... I have 2 registers here, right? And they're just barely big enough that I can't quite fit them all into one, right? This only goes up to 8. If we could squeeze this down to 8 instead of 9 inputs, we could save one module in the previous puzzle, right? So we need to save all of these, I think. over here, I mean, we're using each of these. Like, it's... So, there's no, like, oh, we can just remove this one, right? Wait, are we? Yeah. Well, it would be nice to beat him a little bit here, get a shorter solution. But I don't see anything. Here we need the instruction type so we know which input to use. Either the immediate source value. Hang on. Do we? Maybe. What I'm thinking is, what if we could put this adder onto this side of the pipeline, right? Because right now we're saving two numbers just to add them in the next stage. If we added them previously, we could save just one, right? And we only use them just for this adder. So, what's our time cycles look like? Our slowest stage is actually not this one. So this is interesting. Let's back up here. I'm going to go back to more stages. I think maybe we can shave off one module here. So I'm going to try to do this first in the least disruptive way by actually leaving both registers and just changing what... Like, okay, so... Alright, so this is 19, right? I guess I can just test this easily by, if I extend this to 6 and put in an adder that writes to here and reads from these two, we went up to 20. So this is now our slowest stage, but it's not actually slow enough to make us go past our time constraints. And by doing this, we can... Now we've added this adder, of course, but we're taking away this one, so that comes out even. And then we can combine these two registers and come out one register cheaper, right? I think so. Take these two out. Wait, can I take these two out? Yeah, they're in the same stage, right? What am I even talking about? It doesn't matter what stage they're in. I just need slots. So let's go for it. Let's make this 8. And these two we don't actually need at all. But instead, we're going to take this. Well, okay. Let's rewire it a bit. We'll send this guy into the first new register. This guy we're not keeping. This one we're not keeping. These two we do need to keep. So they go here and here. And then this adder goes here. Now it's going to be a little bit tricky to keep track of which of these represents what, I think. So let's see. This adder, which is currently wired up to here, is then fed to here, which goes nowhere, of course. We want it to go where this is, which is the second input of this thing. So the output of this adder, which is here, will send to this. So that way we've now dealt with this old input and these two. What about this one? Where was this going? It was going to the top input of this. And that is now here. Okay. So now we just have to move these two around, right? This one is going to the middle input of our top selector. and its new source is here. Middle input of top selector. Okay. And lastly, this is being fed to these comparators. Makes sense, I guess. And where it's actually being stored is, instead of here, here. I said second input of these comparators? Yeah. Here, here, here. Second input of these comparators. So now, I believe this is wired up correctly. This isn't going anywhere. None of... Oh, this one still goes somewhere. Why? Okay, this goes to the right output. And it's actually coming from here, which means here, here. Oh, I got this wrong. I wired it up to the comparators. How did that happen? Well, I can delete this adder, that's obvious. This is what exactly? This should be the destination, right? So it's this to this to this. Ah! That was going to 3 places and I only noticed 2 of them. That makes sense. I think. So now, this is not writing to anywhere and we can delete it. And we're down to 15 modules. So is it still correct? We're saving an MSET of -4 to 68, putting that into our registers. All this is doing nothing. Next step. Ah, dang it, I did it wrong. I wanted to just step, step. An MSET of -4 to 68 is being saved as, like, basically the previous instruction. And all this stuff, nothing's happening yet. We're still building up our pipeline. Okay. And now we're storing -4 into slot 68. Great. And remembering... Yeah, okay, I don't know. Let's just hit play, see what happens. We did it! Great. So, this cost us 10 ticks because we made our longest cycle, or we increased our clock period by 1, but we did better on number of modules. So this is, I think, the first one I've seen where there's some tension between number of modules and speed. Previously, like, fixing one of them has been best for both, right? So how could we somehow improve this? Could we? I don't know. So let's move this adder up. So our critical path is from this register to itself, right? Our 2 register 2 from itself and itself, yeah. This one is quite short, it's just like 13. And this one... Oh, interesting. This is wired up to itself, and so I can't see anymore what happens on this side of it. I'd have to sort of add 2 to what I get here, but okay. This is 12, 16, 18 to right here. So, if there were some way that we could, even if we, I guess what I'm saying is, our times are 19 on the left of this and 20 on the right. And if you could move something from one into the other, it wouldn't really help, right? If we could move something from this stage into the next stage, that would help. But that was what we had before. We had this adder in the next stage. And moving it into the previous stage let us cut down on storage requirements. Is there something else we could move from the previous stage into the next one? Assuming that we have this in the first stage? I don't think so, because all there is... Yeah, this has to be done in our second stage of the pipeline, not the third. Which means everything it depends on, which is basically everything, has to also be in that second stage already. So, I think that there is not much we can do to fight this tension. Alright, well that was kind of fun. Nice little improvement. And so I guess, let's see if we can get delay jump in, despite my having, like, spent 15 minutes not doing it. Okay. Right. And so now, I have a slightly different... I have the option to use the old version or the new version for my delay jump. So I have to figure out, will I need more storage space or not? What exactly needs to change? I think that the main thing is just the op selectors, right? This one needs to say... if... I think the idea is that this op selector, when it's about to do a write, it should say, if the previous instruction was a jump, then we're not actually doing this write at all, and we should abort it, right? And so that's fine. That will actually just happen for free by leaving a nil here. The trickier thing is... Let's see, what is the trickier thing? Alright, what exactly does jump take? Is it an immediate? Yeah, it jumps to an immediate slot, so we don't need to decode anything from memory before we decide to jump. So we could have an op selector back here feeding this latch, which receives the opcode of the current instruction. I think that would be okay. So that doesn't require any more storage space either, right? And jump doesn't use source or target, but it does use a destination. Which makes me worry, right? If we jump to instruction 37, then a future add-m, which is reading from instruction 37, will think we just wrote to 37, basically, right? So that's sort of a problem. But I think in terms of like spilling the buffer when I don't know, maybe those are the wrong words. Clearing the pipeline when we detect a jump, I think is pretty simple. We just add an operation selector here, and the writing takes care of itself. The only problem is that we might mess up some future addm instruction that thinks we wrote a nil to 37, basically. So let's try the obvious fix and see what that does, I guess. And I think it'll increase our time as well. And I'm going to do it with the non-optimized version here, so that I have space to add more registers easily if I need it, and then maybe I'll go back over it, and if I turn out not to need any extra space, then I can try adapting it to the more compact version. So, okay, an input selector here, which is either this sum, no, not an input select, an op select on R, which is usually this sum, and otherwise, in the case of a jump, is something. So it's reading this value, the opcode that we just read, before we save it to a register, so that it can be immediate. And if so, it'll take just the destination, like so. Very simple. This is, I think, it, assuming that we don't need to fix... Interesting. And this adds exactly 1, meaning it doesn't slow us down at all. Or rather, it does slow us down, because it makes the stage a little bit longer. But remember that in the compacted version, we made this stage equal to length 20. So this won't actually slow us down at all in the compacted version. Okay, so great, I guess. So what happens when we test this? As I said, this is already handled. We decide not to write anything if a jump occurs. But there's still that data race that I'm worried about, that I was worried about for memsets, but turned out not to matter, and now I'm worried might happen for jumps. I don't know. Okay, well, whatever, we'll see. Maybe I'm just worried about nothing. We're on test number 1, so who knows. So we got a memset, and therefore we're adding 1. Okay, so all this stuff is pretty simple. And our very next one is going to be a jump, huh? How nice. God, I keep doing that. I didn't... Memset. This button just looks so much more appealing than this one, even though this is the one I want to click. Like, I never want to click this. I want to click either this one, the fast one, or the step 1 at a time. I never want to do the slow version. I don't know. Anyway, so where are we? We're executing a jump to instruction 37, which means that we're setting this to 37. That's all good. And now the question is just whether we accidentally store some garbage into something somehow. Now wait a minute. Is this... Oh, we don't even have to do anything silly in terms of like spilling this, because a jump will just get here and not write anything. It's not like we have a write in flight that we're negating by a jump. We might have that for delay branches. Maybe? No, I don't think so. As long as we can do the evaluation in the same tick. Anyway, okay, fine. So now we're getting ready to store this jump here. We're writing an 87 into slot 0, which is still fine. Or 0 into slot 87, I should say. Now we say there's a jump coming, therefore we're going to write 37. We're writing to slot 37, but we're not actually writing anything, so that's fine as well. I think this looks pretty good. little bit surprised that we didn't run into that bug. Wait, really? We beat the best ticks and the best number of modules? This is with the unoptimized version. Great work as always, Sam. Just wanted to let you know. I gave notice 2 weeks ago, so this is my last day. Carol runs a tight ship, but I'm a free spirit, you know? Zero-Com just isn't my kind of place anymore. Don't know when I'll see you again, but good luck, pal. Never let the world grind you down. So I'm actually quite surprised by this, because I thought that we only needed to add one module, and I thought it was pretty obvious that we only need to add one module. So if we were at the best number of modules in the previous one, we should be the ideal number of modules should have just gone up by 1, but it looks like instead it went up by 3. Back to take me back to more stages, right? Ideal is 16, so it should have gone up to 17, I would think, and then we'd be tied with it. But it didn't. It went up by 3. What on earth 3 modules could you possibly need here? So let's just this was in fact we ended up not needing any more storage space at all, right? So I'm just gonna copy this and bring it to delay jump, where we will amaze the world with our so much better than ideal solution. We're just going to need an op selector here, which is on R, where in most cases it takes the output of this sum. You guys have seen this whole song and dance before. And otherwise it takes the destination of this jump. And like, I think that's it, right? Test, go. A very, very small modification of our previous puzzle. And indeed, it still takes exactly 20 ticks, so that extra 1 that we added didn't hurt us at all. In this case, there wasn't any tension between smallest and fastest. They're the same. Cool. Alright, well, puzzle select. We have delay branch. Let's take a look at these just real quick. So I think the deal with Reg Hazard is it has set Rs, basically, and well, importantly, add Rs. Add two registers together, set register to an immediate value, load and save. I don't quite see why this should be so much harder than the version with memory hazards. But I guess it is, apparently. Anyway, so delay branch. I'll read the intro later, but I'm just looking over here at what instructions we have. Bmem. If the contents of 2 memory slots are equal, then jump. Now that's a little bit trickier than jump, because we can't sneak the jump input selector in to the same stage that we're reading memory, right? So the jump was pretty cheap to do because we could just say, as soon as we decode the instruction, oh, it's a jump and here's its address. Just shove that into the next clock cycle. It's going to be substantially harder, I think, when we don't know where to jump to without decoding some addresses, right? We have to read memory, so it's going to take us like 2 ticks or 2 clock periods. One to decode the jump and another to decode where we're going. Interesting. So maybe I think this is where we get to like branch prediction, where we'll sort of just predict that no branches are ever taken, speculatively start executing the next instruction, while we decode whether we should jump based on the previous one. And if we do, then we'll need to cancel the previous instruction, make sure it doesn't write anything. So that'll be an interesting challenge, but we're not going to do it in this episode. We are perfectly done here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.